Hey everybody, my name is Kylie Davila, and tonight I'm going to be going over chapters 3 and 4 with you guys on the book Build to Last. I have really enjoyed this book. I feel like it's a really quick read. Like sometimes we get in those books and they're so meaty and I have to like read stuff over and over. And this has been so good. Like it has a lot of stuff, but it's been a quick read and I've really enjoyed it. So, jumping in to chapter 3, the build to last mindset. He gives 7 core philosophies on leading yourself, which is one of the hardest things to ever do in this business is leading yourself. And that's what we have to do. So, starting out with number 1 is leaders focus on who they are becoming more than what they are getting. And he says a leader knows it's not possible to hold the title or rank of a leader long term without becoming a person capable of doing so. Leading is about changing yourself from the inside out. Leaders are focused on who they are becoming versus what they are getting. And on our team, we always have that saying that we say, like, we'd rather have rock steady over rock star. And what we mean by that is when you're rock steady, it means you're coming in, and even if it takes you a while to build your team or build up or get momentum or even get your first join or get your first person that wants to do the business, if it takes you a while to rank up, it's okay if you're actually willing to do the work and you're wanting to become the person capable of leading a team and for it to be long term. You're building a very strong and a stable foundation, and that is really what you want. And when we say rock star, what we mean is maybe somebody comes in and they either carry a lot of influence or just know a lot of people, but they're not really coachable and they're not willing to do any internal work to become the person capable of a team. And so what ends up happening down the road, like 6 months, 9 months, 12 months, you start to see that team kind of fall apart because the leader is not wanting to do what is necessary to, it says leader long-term without becoming a person capable of doing so. So that's what we mean by that. And if you get somebody that's a rock star on your team and they fly through the ranks and they're rock steady, that's just like a dream come true. But that's what it made me think of there. Is you definitely want people who want to step in and want to do the work that is necessary and say, hey, I'm willing. I want to become that person. Number 2, leaders don't just believe they can, they know that they will. So this is knowing without a doubt. This is like that internal switch to where you stop saying like, man, I mean, I think I can do this. I mean, maybe that person did it. I can probably do it. Or, you start to play in your mind and you start believing and saying, man, I hope I can. I think I can. But this is the switch where you say, yes, no, I know I will. I don't know when, I don't have the timeline, but I know I'm going to do this. And that also helps with that long-term mindset. So instead of you being so disappointed, if like maybe you had a goal and at the end of the month, you're like, man, I missed it by 1 or, whatever it was, whether it was point growth or a person, or maybe it's a rank, it's okay because you have that long-term mindset of like, hey, it's okay. This month's over. It's a brand new month, but it doesn't matter. I'm just going to keep on keeping on because you're not going month by month. Does that make sense? So you're not, and he does talk about later on that you discipline your disappointments. And I think of that there as well. But he's saying that this knowing piece is the internal shift many would-be leaders never make. You can go through the motions of talking with people all you want, but until you make the shift, they won't be attracted to you or want to join you. Once you make the shift, they'll see and feel that you're going to run with this opportunity and make something of it with or without them. I think that's very important, is when you have that confidence and you make that shift, you're no longer attached when somebody quits or, that person that was like, hey, I'm going to be here forever and whatever, and they leave, and that disappointment, it's okay because that's going to happen. You have people that drop off and come back. But it helps you to not be so attached to those and that you're going to keep going with or without them. And I also think we don't give enough credit to our thoughts. Like, we don't really think about them. We'll send out messages and think, oh, it's fine. Like, nobody knows that internally I'm really doubting myself. or, you know, sending that message, I had no energy or passion behind it. I'm just sending it out to get my IPA done. And I'm not saying that you're always going to feel like it or always be in the mood. There's many times where I'm like, hey, I still got to show up. I don't feel like it, but I'm going to still send some messages. But I think we don't give enough credit to like our feelings really affecting the words that we use when we reach out, or just the energy. And I know people can tell, especially when we're showing up on our stories and stuff. They're like, hey, she's not feeling it right now. Or, you know, your posture, you're not as confident. And so just being mindful of that. Number 3, leaders don't just show up, they show up with their mind right. And we talk a lot about mindset in this business. That's why we do book club. That's why we read. That's why we have Thursday nights to meet and discuss and all of that, because mindset is so important. And he says, I had to shift from allowing those thoughts to control me to controlling my own mindset. And then a little bit further down, he says, if I wanted to build a large organization that would last, I had to create the right thoughts and feelings behind my actions. It's not just about the actions are 5%. Which means 95% of enduring success is the mindset. That's the thoughts, the feelings behind the actions you're taking. And at some point in your business, the cliches you're taught, be here a year from now and just keep showing up, are not enough. If you want to become a leader, you have to move past just showing up and into molding yourself into the type of person capable of leading a team. And I think that right there is so important. I underlined all of that. And I, like, for one, I know firsthand how hard it is to make that shift of not being a person that's just going to show up and, you know, have that employee mindset, that you really do have to shift and say, no, this is my business. I am the CEO of this business. I need to show up. And what it looks like for us is, you know, if you're in a team chat, that you're not just there, right? And you see what everybody's posting and whatever, you're saying, hey, I'm going to go in and add value to my team. I'm going to go grab something. This is going to be so good. I listened to this. I saw this training. I'm going to pop it in here and add value to my team. Or, you know, being in a part of your team page, instead of always looking for what the leaders are putting out, you have to start viewing yourself as the leader and saying, okay, what type of training does the team need? What type of motivation? What type of, like, maybe you came across some really cool graphics or a story or product information. It is you taking the initiative to go grab the information and then put it in the team page. And then, you know, that this is you, instead of just making a Facebook post, this is you showing up on your stories, talking to your audience. These are the things that you need to do instead of just showing up. This is you taking that initiative and growing. And people will see this. That is when they start to view you as a leader. And I think that we miss this a lot of the time. We kind of just show up and we're like, hey, but I'm showing up. You got to start taking on leadership responsibilities, even on book club. If this is your first one, don't get scared. Don't run away. But book club, like, instead of just showing up to listen, come with the intent to say, hey, I really want to share like what I think, because you really do, you have worth and you have value to add. And so all those little lies that I couldn't remember the first time I unmuted, I was like, oh my gosh, I'm going to sound so stupid. I'm not going to make sense. Everybody's going to be like, who is this girl that is talking? You know, all those things that go through your mind. Just be afraid, be scared, and do it anyways. Because I'm telling you, it's stuff like this, these little things, to just unmute, share your biggest takeaway, even if it's 3 seconds. Like, hey, I loved what it said on page, whatever. That's it. You know, start somewhere small and build on. Annie's laughing at me, but I'm telling you. So that's what I have for that. But okay, number 4, leaders understand that they own a big business. So one of the best parts of our business is that anyone can get involved. Right? It's so easy. You just enroll for $9.95 or $19.95. But the worst part is that you've got no skin in the game. And I've heard this before. It's like, if you don't have like that big buy-in, you can almost start playing those mind games with yourself of like, well, it's not really that big of a deal. Or like, well, if I don't make it, if I fail, I'm really just losing like $10. You know what I mean? It's fine. But he says that how he got himself out of this mindset is how seriously would I take this business if I have had $250,000 on the line, which is what it normally costs to start up a big business or organization. So telling yourself, instead of like, oh, it's fine, you know, I didn't really waste a lot of money, you have to be like, no, what if I had $250,000 on the line? So given the low startup costs and the opportunity being open to anyone, network marketing can mistakenly be perceived as not a big opportunity or a real type of business, but leaders understand they're building a big business. So, number 5, leaders set one overarching long-term goal. He says the most important milestone on the way to my goal was finding and developing leaders. So my daily activities focused on finding and developing leaders. And then after you set your goal, which this is really important, he says, after your goal is set, make sure all your daily activities are in line with that goal. So it's really you coming up with that goal and then making sure, what are you doing as your IPA? What are you doing each day to get you towards that goal? Now, if you're doing other things that are not in alignment with this goal, that just doesn't make sense. So this is really good to kind of self-evaluate. Number 6, leaders create momentum and ride it. I love the analogy he used. He was talking about surfing, and that when you get out there and you want to go catch a big wave, I've never surfed, but I've seen people do it. But you have to go through the crashing wave to get out there and be able to get your big wave and then ride the energy in. And he is saying that the surf is your fears, your insecurities, your self-doubt, the negative talk going through your mind. The surf is your lack of success and your lack of skills when you're first getting started. I always think, like, when we first get started in our business, our dream is like the most fragile because we have nothing, like no evidence that we're actually going to achieve anything. We have no evidence, but we're just saying, yes, this is what I'm going to do. This is where I'm going. And so it's saying, hey, you're going to have some crashing waves and you're going to have some stuff coming. But if you want to go out there and get the big wave and ride the energy and be in momentum, you're going to have to go through some stuff. And number 7, leaders give themselves permission to succeed. So he's saying, I want you to hear and I want you to feel from my heart to yours. So this is me, from my heart to yours, that you have permission to succeed at the highest levels in this business. If you want to be a leader in your industry, in our industry, you're going to have to crown yourself king or queen. You can't be dependent. It's okay in the beginning. I did a lot of hand holding. I was very dependent on my sponsors. I had to shift from like not viewing myself as a leader to viewing myself as a leader. So it's okay if you're new to still be doing some hand holding and still building up that belief, borrowing it if you need to, but you really have to start seeing yourself as, this is my business. This is, it's dependent on me. It's not dependent on my upline or my downline. This is my business. He says there's no inheritance in network marketing. You have to earn your title. And I loved that. Let me see what time it is. Oh, 8:15. Okay, so chapter 4 is a lot more brief. So I'll just touch on a few points here before I open it up. But he starts out, so chapter 4 is build to last and your personal development plan. And the quote he starts out with it is, as a leader, it's a major responsibility on your shoulders to practice the behavior you want others to follow. So in here, he's talking about, in our industry, it is so easy to just get in the mode of like consuming, but not implementing. And if you are not implementing, if you don't implement what you're reading, you're not going to become who you want to become. Consuming information gets you nowhere. So basically, it's saying it doesn't matter what you're doing. If you are reading, he talks about the 52 books a year is not a personal development plan. Now, if you read 52 and you're able to implement everything, great. But he's saying take a few and actually implement what it's saying. And that's where you're going to start getting somewhere. And one of my biggest moments that I realized that was coming home from my first Ruby retreat. I came home and I had like a 7-hour drive. And so I was alone in the car. And I remember just thinking, okay, I just had the most amazing weekend. And I have like all these pages of notes, like pages and pages and pages of the best information, But I kept telling myself, okay, if I don't actually do something with everything I just learned, I am not going to get any further. And so I have to actually decide what are those things I need to implement and then actually go in and then do it. And so that's what he's saying here is, he says, start by jotting down the leaders in your company and the leaders you admire. So write those people down and then list the qualities you admire in those leaders. And he also says, how do those leaders inspire their team? And how do those leaders make the individuals on their team feel? And then you create like your ideal self. And I love this because visualization is so important. And so if you can like envision you as your highest self and what that person actually looks like, then now you have like a list of things of this is the type of leader I want to become. And he says to rate yourself on a scale of 1 to 10. And this is where you're going to come up with your plan to bridge the gap that he talks about. And the formula, he kind of says, if there was a formula, it's where are you now? Where do you want to go? And then create the plan to bridge the gap. And he says, that when you make your list, what is that? I'm not willing to do that list, because you want to get this list as close as possible to 0 if you want to succeed at the highest level. I love that he said that this is a do and then learn business. So you have to stop waiting until you're more qualified or more. You just have to start right where you're at and just start taking action, because when you start taking action, that's when you're going to learn and you're going to grow. And I'll end with this and open it up to you guys. On the very last page of 64, he says, know that your action creates positive energy that trumps your fears, your insecurities, your doubts, and builds self-esteem, making it easier to take the action next time. And I loved that. I put a little star by that. So I'm just going to open it up to you guys for your biggest takeaways, or I thought something that would be cool to talk about too was when you think about those leaders, like what are the qualities that you see or that you admire? What is that ideal self that you're working towards? Any of those action steps that we see on those last pages. So either your biggest takeaways or some of your stuff that you worked on the action steps.
I'll go. Sorry, I don't have all of my voice back yet, but I love these chapters. I was this morning when my daughter was at therapy, and I'm like madly highlighting and underlining. But I just wanted to share short because I know I don't have much of a voice. When I was reading the action steps, so in the last chapter where he talks about the I am, we did an exercise probably, I think I was still a gold. And Fallon did this like 30-day challenge, and we had like steps to do, and we had to write I am statements. And I remember her talking about like we had to say like we had the fastest growing team in Plexus. Like we had to highlight things that we envisioned in our business and making us successful. And like when I sat down and made the list, like that was the first time in my business I was like, wow, like these are key things that like I can see in my business. Um, and then when he talked about the, like having goals and breaking it down and making the like 5 year, 10 year, 15 year, it's so easy sometimes, especially when you've reached some of your goals and you've crossed off your initial vision board, to just be like, oh, I'm gonna dream, but not to sit back down again and like really break it down into where do you want to be in 5 years? What steps are going to take you there? Where are you going to be in 10 years? So I loved these chapters. Like I'm remaking my list and writing out I am statements. And I find when I do that, when I literally, you talked about mindset, when I think about, I am attracting people that are looking for health and wellness. I'm helping nurses live better lives. And then I reach out to people, I get a much better response. And because it's our posture, it's our excitement, it's our passion, we reach out to them versus just being like, okay, I'm checking 10 people off my list today. So there's so much in these chapters. I am definitely rereading them again this week.
I'm going to jump in before my daughter comes back into my room. Mindset, this whole chapter, these 2 chapters, I just feel so convicted because mindset is something that I personally work on day in and day out. I don't feel like it's like a strength that you can just get a handle of. It's something that you have to be really mindful of and consistently work on it. But I remember maybe it was at Ruby Retreat. It was definitely in the very beginning of my business. And the action steps really made me think of it, especially number 6, where they said leaders create momentum and write it. But somebody told me very early on in my business, create the change that you want to see. And this statement just like ignited that back in my head. If you want energy like back in your business, create it. If you want to see more signs, or if you want to develop more leaders, create it. You are in control of what your business looks like, and you can't rely on somebody else. So you are in the driver's seat, and just create the change and then ride the momentum. So you have full control. And I don't know, these chapters just like reignited that in my brain. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to go back to that, because in the very beginning of your business, everything is super fun and exciting, and you want to just like tackle those things. And that stood out to me. And I literally wrote it on a Post-it and put it on my wall after reading it. I'm like, that's what I'm going to do. I'm just going to create the change I want to see.
Sabrina, that was so good. That needs to be like a mini training too. Like that is how you create momentum. Is first you start with personal momentum. I remember talking to Natalie Dolan about that. I'm like, how are you creating this momentum? She's like, it's just personal momentum. Like you have to create like what you want to do. So, all right. I love the intentionality of what was the chapter 4? Yeah. Chapter 4, your personal development plan, because I think in this realm that we're all in, that it's really easy to just consume and not have a strategic plan. And when we pick books for book club, we are trying to be strategic in what does the team need and stuff like that. And podcasts are great. You can learn a lot from them, but this is why I do not like podcasts, because you are just being fed whatever that person is talking about in that day. And it's always great information. There's so much great information, but unless you're really intentional and really specific with maybe a podcast that's really niche down to something super specific, it's hard for you to create your own plan of what you really need. So I love his guidelines where he talks about, where do you want to go? How are you going to get there? Just reading 52 books a year is not a personal development plan. We're doing the topic of leadership with my kids, and I'm like, okay, great. My husband hasn't done any of this either. So I went and bought all of John Maxwell's leadership stuff that'd be appropriate for the whole family, which was pretty much most of it. So pretty much all of his CDs, so that my kids can put them in during lunch, instead of just having lunchtime be whatever. And they're always bickering because they're homeschooled and they're together all day. We're going to be intentional. We're going through leadership this quarter, and this is what we're going to work through. And then what is our next topic going to be, instead of just, letting the day run you, or just, you know what I'm saying? So I think it's really good to be intentional with that, especially as we're constantly growing in this industry.
That was one of my favorite parts also. The personal development section just stood out so much to me, because as people, we gather information like in all sorts of areas. And I'm a teacher, so I spit out information all day long. And I see, like in my students in particular, so it's in all aspects of life. If you don't apply it, it's useless. It's in one ear and out the other. And in every course of life, this rule applies. If you're not developing yourself personally, if you're not applying something that you learned, then it's wasted knowledge all around. So to me, this stuck out so much, and I highlighted it and I started, because without the application piece, it's nothing really. It's just hearsay.
I don't want to like
Okay.
cut anybody off because I've been talking, but that reminded me, there's like a quote, y'all might know it, but it's like, it says that knowledge isn't knowledge unless it's passed on or taught or something. Y'all know that saying? So that made me think of that, Lauren.
Okay. So I only laughed at you earlier because it's like you're literally shouting at me Like, listen to the book.
I mean, I was looking at your face.
Well, it's okay. I took it all in because reading these 2 chapters to me, I got a lot out of these 2 actually, and they were easy reading because when I first started, I'm like, self-help, okay, I'll try this, but this one is actually, I've really gotten a lot out of it. A couple of things that I got was like, I like the part where he said he made a mantra: I can, I will, I can, I will, and he just kept going. I'm probably gonna like paint that on my bathroom mirror so I can just read it and get it into my thick skull that I can do it. I will do it. That one, I liked that. I really liked, you touched on it too, the marketing is do and then learn, not learn then do, because to me that's backwards. And I think I had it in my head that I had to learn it before I could do it, when actually, so that's kind of made me hesitant about doing things because I didn't feel knowledgeable enough. But really, especially for me, you just got to stick your toe in and go, and that's just very hard for me. So it is something that I am still working on. And then the last thing that I really liked is it's okay to be uncomfortable, which is very hard because I am very uncomfortable doing a lot of different things like this. So I'm trying, but I'm learning that the uncomfortable things are the things that actually end up helping you in the long run.
I love that. Oops, is someone else
Oh,
talking?
sorry.
Shoot, who is it?
Me.
Megan, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say I really loved everything you just shared, Annie. I just can't get over the surf analogy. That really, really stuck out to me because I know a lot of us have been through it. And going through it can be scary. It can be frustrating. There's going to be times where you just feel overwhelmed and like want to quit. But the best thing you can do, you guys, like when you're in the surf, you are learning and you are growing so much. And when you come out of it and you are able to like get on that wave and ride it down, it is just such an incredible feeling, and one that you're going to keep chasing. It's going to keep you coming back for more. Even if you're going through more surf to catch the next wave, it's all worth it because in the middle of it, in the middle of all the messiness and chaos that you're feeling, you are just growing and learning so much. So just don't quit, just keep pushing through it because you are going to come out on top and you're going to ride that wave down.
Okay, hey, that was so good. I was just gonna say, I loved on page 57 where he talks about getting your goal together for your 5-year plan or whatever it was, and making that goal the center of your daily activities. When I first started doing the business, I was a different person than I am today. I would be gone all days of the week. Most of my newer friends probably don't know that version of me because I haven't been like that since I've been doing Plexus. I reserve those days for specific days of the week, but I would always be out doing something, always out shopping, always redecorating, just busy, busy, busy. And Fallon said, listen, if this is not going to get you to diamond, then you have to stop doing it. So that's what I did. And when I started applying that little tip, it made such a difference in my business because I could be busy cleaning or hanging out with friends or shopping all day long, but just remembering like, hey, is this supporting the life I'm working for? Probably not. And then just refocusing that way. So I loved that part.
I was gonna say too, you reminded me of when I first started my business, and in page 53 where it talks about that whole section with like leaders understand they own a big business. I found that every time I played small, I felt this self-betrayal because I knew that what I was doing was so special. But when I started developing self-respect, I started owning what I was doing. And so I just wanted to throw that in there in case anybody who's starting off their business is kind of feeling that, like, I got to play small because, this isn't like another, so-and-so's business or whatever. Do some work in that self-respect area, because once you have that down, you won't play small and you will own what you do.
I think at just on the first page of chapter 3, the first point of leaders focus on who they are becoming more than what they are getting. Which I think that I love that it's like number 1, focus on who you're becoming. It's like just do the work and the results come, right? And like when you love the walk, those who love the walk get further than those who love the destination. And so I think that one point right there, just like making that a part of how I function in this business, just doing that is probably one of the biggest keys to getting as far as I've gotten. Just becoming the jewel that I knew I would need to be in order to actually get the rank. And just falling in love with that process. I think that's huge. That's everything. So like that personal development, that personal growth as a lifestyle every single day, day in and day out, a part of who you are. That's everything.
Okay, I think I'm on mute. Sorry. I was gonna say I liked in the chapter, one of the things that I thought about was when he was talking about mindset. I want to say that if you can I have Jim Rohn's CD, that Building Your Network Marketing Business, and I did play it like he said, and it is phenomenal. Jim Rohn is amazing. So if you have the opportunity to get on probably eBay now and find it, but it is awesome. And you will learn a lot about this business. And like he said, discipline, your disappointments, all of that. And I liked where he talked about the person in their company with her beliefs and hitting goals at the end.
Oh, you're muted, Tiff. You muted at the
Okay.
last thing we heard was at the end.
Okay, sorry. I cannot use my phone ever for Zoom. Okay, what he said at the end of that page on mindset, he was talking about the 2-star diamond, and he was saying how, like, well, what are you going to do about that goal? Because she just kind of felt defeated, like she wasn't going to do it. She was kind of giving up. And I remember, like, every month, and still through my business, it's always, and now I've gotten disciplined to where I think it's important to be just as focused in the beginning of the month as you tend to get at the very end of the month when you're scrambling, but to always go silver, have those 3 people and always have that as a goal. Well, what are you going to do about it? There's still 2 days left in the month and you've only recruited 1 or 2, or, go for that 3, because that's a big deal in your business and it boosts that confidence. And the other thing that I wanted to just mention was where he said that leaders understand they own a big business. I learned this through the years, because when we first started, we were like, oh, this is our side gig that makes so much money. And I think it's so important that you don't have that mentality, that you treat it with more like, this is a big business. This is big opportunities, big respect in your business. And this is a big opportunity for other people. So treating it like a real type of business, like it's not just a side gig, it's not just something like that, because people can make, for somebody, even if it's their side gig, making them you know, a salary that's still more than what they're making at a restaurant or a gas station or wherever, the grocery store, wherever they're working. And I think that that is a big thing in your mind to perceive, is to always go out there. And when people say, what do you do? Like, be passionate and driven. And you say, like, I'm in direct sales, I'm in network marketing. Like, it's so different nowadays. Like, this is where the future is headed. So it's not, I still see people that are like, oh, I do direct sales. And I'm like, what? Like, it's, what are you talking about? Like, that's a big deal. People are making big money and able to stay at home and provide for their families because of that opportunity. So I loved, like, I was like, yes, yes, underline everything about that. Low startup and what it can do. Creating leverage, like he said, with your big business that it is. So, okay, I could go on, but those are my big takeaways.
Yeah, there was like a lot in, especially for me in chapter 3, a lot to go over. I know we're over, so I guess we'll wrap it up there. I felt like the discussion was so good because this book, it just like cuts to the chase. It's like everything we've been learning throughout the years, but just like summed up and like real direct, and I like it. So next week we will have chapters 5 and 6, and we will see you next Thursday. Bye, you guys.